Adam, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, Ellie, I'm glad to be here, man. Glad to be on the podcast, The Gospel of Fire.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. I see obviously you're in the MMA space. This is where I grew up
Yeah,
and made myself as well, but I never got one of the dolls or the figures behind me. I'm very jealous.
I know. I remember you from the Ultimate Fighter way back in the day, but they never made one of your guys, right? You didn't win. You didn't win the show, so
I
I
didn't win
guess
the
that's
show.
why.
Yeah, look, we can just be honest, man. I wasn't that good of a fighter.
You were
you
pretty
know?
good though, man. You won fights in the UFC, Elliot. Like not everyone's done that. That's pretty good, man.
Yeah, it's okay. Look, so sure. I'm that what do you call it? I'm that if you're gonna relate it to other sports, I'm like that sixth or seventh man coming off the bench, right?
Yeah,
I'm
but
not. I'm
there's nothing wrong with that. We
sure.
need people like that in the sport. You know what I
a
mean? I
hundred
thought you had
percent.
a really good career. I'm not here to suck up to you or anything, but I thought you had a good career. I enjoyed watching you fight. It's the first time we've had a talk, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to tell you that. Like I enjoyed
Oh.
watching you fight. I liked you on the Ultimate Fighter. I believe you were on the same season as Vinny Mogulus, right? If I'm not
Yeah, it was
mistaken.
me, Vinny, Bader. So
Ryan Bader. Yeah, there's
yeah.
some really good fighters from that season, man. So I mean, you had a tough season in general, right? But I remember you, and like I have a lot of respect for you. Anyone who's
Oh,
gone through the show, anyone who's fought in the cage, I have a ton of respect for. So I was just making a joke about the doll, but honestly, man, like I thought
yeah.
you had a really good career, and I know you're a modest guy, but I'm just being that's my thoughts about it.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Um, and this podcast and everything that I do now, and that what we're going to talk about today is how we make our life after failure sometimes, and how we make our life through this. Like we just talked about it offline for a second in this MMA space. Unless you are the champion or actively fighting, right? Like especially active, like if you're actively fighting, then you're solely focused on fighting. But unless you've been a champion, it can be very difficult to make your way in the world after. You see this a lot with fighters. You see this a lot with reporters and just people in the space. Like, how do I do this? What happens in my life afterwards? So, first of all, my question to you is, how did you get into the space? Like, what was that like?
That's a great question, man. So here's the thing. Most people when they grow up, Elliot, they have like a goal, right? They want to be something. They want to be a doctor or a firefighter or a policeman or a soldier or whatever. I mean,
Hmm.
most people have that, right? I didn't really have that kind of goal growing up. Like I knew I liked writing. Okay. So I went to school, I finished my university degree, I did in history, and most people that do that degree get into teaching, but it just wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do. And it's funny how this happened. So at that point, this is about 15 years ago, I started watching MMA and I really enjoyed it. And all of a sudden, it became legalized in Ontario around 2010. Um, so I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with my life, but somehow I was able to find a sports journalism program in Toronto here. And I decided, you know what? Why don't you just take a shot at this? Because no one else is really doing this, especially in Canada at that point. This is like 2010. The sport was just legalized in our province here. So I was like, you know what? Take a shot at this. So I went to school for it. I remember telling the college professor who had organized the program, I said, I want to be an MMA journalist. He just said, well, good luck because, there's no one doing this and you're not going to probably have a career doing this. And I
Well,
wanted
this
to
was
prove
what
him wrong.
fighting was like, right? Like it's
Yeah,
what my parents, it's
I'm
what everyone said to me
Oh
in
man, I completely agree.
2006.
I
Like,
think
what are you
there's so
doing?
many parallels. I think there's so many parallels, Elliot. It's crazy,
Yeah.
right? And you were right there, and people probably told you you're crazy. Like, what are you thinking? Like, why are you doing this? You could have a safer career, quote unquote. But I wanted to do it, and I went to school and I studied hard, and I ended up just pursuing this. Ended up getting my internship uh, in the space. And for the last 12 years, I've been doing this, but it's been a lot of ups and downs though. It's like being a fighter. Like when I started, I was making literally no money. I was lucky I had a family that did support me somewhat, knowing that, hey, you probably should be doing something else with your degree, but if you want to do this, we'll support you. And I was lucky I had that. My parents mean a lot to me, like they really do. Um, but luckily, man, I've just been grinding forever, and now it's going really well. But it's just been like a lot of years of ups and downs, and I definitely feel like it's similar to what the fighters go through because there just isn't a lot of jobs in the space, and you have to be really good to like rise up above and get these jobs. So yeah, man, the thing is, Elliot, I just have a passion for the sport. I think that's all it comes down to. And that's why I've been pretty successful.
This
And I
is
think
the
that,
whole topic of this podcast. Like this is like everything that I put out, or that I try to put out, and what I put out, jujitsu technique, and I put out this idea, or I like to talk to people about following this passion, right? Following this passion that we have, whatever it is, it does not matter what your passion is, but don't give up on it, And I think that's what happens to a lot of us is we give up on our passion. It's not, people say, oh, I had to give in because I had to, feed my family and get like yada, yada. No, that's not true. You gave up is what the truth is. Sure, you have to feed your family. No one's not saying that, but you gave up, and don't, because this is how you live, I won't say terrible, because I don't think most people's lives is terrible, but I think that the quote, I can't remember who said it, most men lead lives of quiet desperation.
yeah, it's true. It's crazy though, like the ups and downs, man. Like I remember my first job was an internship with a tea company here, and was working with some people that were prominent names. Don't really need to mention their names necessarily, but I worked there for a year. It was my first job out of college, right? And I thought, oh man, this is going really well. I was getting a lot of involvement in the sport, meeting a lot of fighters and stuff like that. And they were having a lot of events in Canada. One day I get a phone call saying, "Hey, our company got bought out. Unfortunately, you've been let go." That happened a year like into my job, and I was like 22 years old, and I'm like, what the hell am I going to do now? Like, luckily, I remember I put myself out there on Twitter, and I was like, "Hey guys, like I just lost my job. Is there anyone who has some work out there for me?" And thankfully, I was able to get some freelance gigs and just keep grinding my way up. Just keep grinding and grinding. And I didn't want to give up because I think it was easy to give up. I could have easily given up, been like, you know what, screw this. Everyone was right. I shouldn't be doing this. You can go for a safe career. I didn't want to, man, because I just love the sport way too much. I just enjoyed writing about it, enjoyed watching it, I enjoyed talking about it. I still do to this very day. So I'm just like, it's just like you said, you can't give up on your goal. Even when there's so much going against you, if you have something you love in your life, you have to pursue it to the best of your ability. And unfortunately, Elliot, it's worked out really well for me. I'm doing really well now. But it's taken a long time. It's taken a decade to kind of get here.
Yeah, I feel you, man. Yeah.
There's a lot of parallels. Like the fighters aren't paid well. The journalists, for the most part, aren't paid well either. So it's you have to be really committed to it to really succeed in this industry, as you know yourself.
Yeah, you have to, you have to. It's got to have a bigger purpose than just money for you, right?
Yeah,
It has to have a much bigger
100%.
and money's a part of it. How did you balance that, right? Because it's such a hard thing, right?
Yes.
Because you have to live. You want to make money. You want like it or don't like it. The way we judge society is
Yep.
are you on success is, do you have money? So,
Yep.
How did you balance those things in the beginning? Because goddamn, dude, like that's hard. Like,
Yeah. Well, I grinded for a while as a freelancer, and then I ended up taking a job outside of MMA because I thought, you know what, I need to make more money, right? This was about 2015, so I took a job doing social media for a big company up here, and Elliot was a really good company, but I didn't enjoy the work. I didn't feel passionate about it when I did it. I did it for a paycheck. And I think most people are in that boat. Most people they're working for a paycheck. Like I watch my parents grow up. My dad goes to work still every day, working for a paycheck. Does he like what he does? I don't necessarily think so, but he does it to provide for his family, right? So at that point, I needed to just have a job. There was one point in 2017 where I was like, you know what? I can't even find a job in this space, and I don't like doing this other stuff. So let's maybe try going back to school. I went back for about a month and said, I can't do this. I want to go back to MMA.
I
I
have
swear to God.
nightmares. I have
Yeah.
nightmares that I'm back in school.
I couldn't do it, man. I was an older student right at that point,
Yeah.
right? So everyone else was younger. The crazy thing was one of my professors there was a huge MMA fan. So he was actually a big supporter of me. We still talk a little bit to this day, but I told him like, I'm an MMA writer. And he's like, why aren't you doing that, man? Like, why aren't you doing that? And I said to myself, you're right. Because at that point I was thinking maybe I should get into like sports management. That's what I was trying to get back for. But I decided to end that. And I went back into the MMA space, and I talked to a former employer. I said, hey, can you give me some work? He said yes. And since then it's been grinding. A few years ago, this is 2020, I found I was going to be a dad for the first time. Now that was the biggest motivation. I don't know if you have children, Elliot. I'm
I have
not
two.
sure.
Yeah, I have two
Yeah,
boys.
you have two. Yeah. So
I have
I have
two
a daughter
boys and
now.
then 4,000 students that I consider
I know, right? You have
that are
all the
part of my
students at
children.
school.
You know, I
They
yeah.
are.
So yeah,
They are. So when I found out I was going to be a dad, that was like the ultimate motivation for me because I was like, okay, I can do okay for me and my girlfriend, who's my fiance now. We can do okay, but we have another mouth to feed now. And I remember going on Twitter saying, "Hey guys, I'm going to be a dad, and I'm actually kind of scared right now, and I hate admitting this, but like I really need some more work." And somehow I got some extra jobs, and since then I've just been grinding and grinding and grinding. So it's just like you got to put yourself out there. You got to tell people, you got to be good at what you do. You got to enjoy what you do. But it is hard to balance it. Right now I am working in MMA, but I also have a job outside of it in the sports betting realm, which I love, by the way. I really enjoy that aspect of just
what is it about
just
sports betting that you like?
I've always enjoyed it, Elliot. I started doing it really when I started watching UFC. I started noticing all the betting lines, and I was like, "Hey, this is interesting." It made me think about the fights on a much deeper level. Okay, so instead of just when I first started watching fights, like, "Oh, I like this guy. He's a good fighter. I think he'll win the fight or whatever." Now I'm looking at every single aspect of the fight. Like the styles, how did their training camp go, how much notice they have for the fight, who are they training with, um, you know, just a lot of different things, age, reach, height, all these different things, all these factors that make me want to really dive into these fights more. And I really enjoy that part of it. So like I've enjoyed the analysis part. And I think that's why I've had some success as well. But getting back to what you were saying, like balancing it all is hard. It's not easy. Like I said, luckily I have a full-time job that's in the sports betting realm, and then I do all the MMA stuff. I wouldn't say on the side. I mean, it's still like my main job too, but it's not my main income at the moment. I'm lucky to have that though, because not everyone would have that. So I feel like I have the best of both worlds right now. But again, it's taken me, I've been doing this since 2010. So I mean, I know you've been in the game even longer than me as a fighter, obviously, but 12 years. I'm
I've been in the game
33
since
now.
'86, baby.
Yeah, there you go. I'm,
I've
I'm
been in the
born in
game
eight.
since '86.
I'm born in 88. Okay, so I'm a little
Okay.
bit younger than you,
Yeah.
Elliot. So when I was 21, I've been doing that since then, turning 34 this year. So
I was
it's
born
been,
in '80 and I started my martial arts journey in 1986.
I
So
love that, man. I
that's
love
why I
that.
said I've been in it since '86 and I don't know anything else.
Yeah, no, I
I
know.
to be super honest with you, man, like I don't know how to do much else. And it's cool.
Yeah, I'm the same way, man. Like honestly, like I don't want to do anything else. I think about it sometimes, and I'm like, it's either like the sports betting thing. Honestly, it does. It's a big part of the MMA game right now, right? So like I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it's a big.
Where
It
do you think
works.
that happened? There was this huge
Good
takeoff
question.
in sports in fight betting in MMA.
Yeah,
Like it wasn't that big, and now it's like they're posting live odds on the fight. Like there's odds in like, okay, now what are the odds? So
I know.
when did it really take off, do you think?
It's a good question. So like when I started it, you had to bet on offshore sports books. So people in like Costa Rica and these
Right.
little islands in the Caribbean and stuff. In 2000, I think 2017, I believe the ban on sports betting was repealed in the United States. I think when that happened, that's when it exploded because now people realized, hey, it's legal. We can have these sports books. We can have people betting on it. And now you can't watch a UFC fight, Elliot, without the odds popping up. It's like the number one thing. They have talk shows dedicated to it. Everyone's talking about the odds. And again, I think it's great because it makes me think about the fights on a deeper level. And obviously, financially, it's great for the UFC. I'm sure they're making a lot of money. I'm sure from these sponsorships with DraftKings and everything like this. So I think it's really good. I think it goes really well with the
A
sport.
lot of money
Like,
they're not fucking paying out to anybody that's actually getting in the
oh,
goddamn
I
gym.
agree with that. I mean, if we want to talk about fighter pay, I mean, I have no problem talking about that with
We
you
will in a
too. But
second.
yeah, we will. But like I said, I think there's a lot of parallels you can make between the fighters and the journalists because there's not many journalists doing this full time. It's hard to get a full time job in this space. But again, if you're really good at it, if you have the passion for it, if you have the drive, I think you can do it. And I think I've shown that. I think some of the other people in the business have shown that, but it's not easy.
Who
It's not
else do you
like I
think
would.
has shown that?
I think there's a lot of people like just from my circle. Aaron Bronsteter is a friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big guy now. He actually brought me on as an intern in 2011. So he was the first guy I ever met. He brought me in. I saw his advertising. I had an internship for school. This is when I went to journalism, and we had a conversation about a fight. We were talking about this fight between Josh Neer and Keith Wisniewski, and it was crazy, man. We're like, did you see those clinch elbows and everything? And he's like, you're the guy. I'm bringing you in. You're going to be my guy. So he's done really well. And another friend of mine, James Lynch, he's another guy. He's a really good friend. And these are Canadian guys, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
but there's
Mm-hmm.
tons of guys, obviously, they're working for the big sites like Junkie Fighting, et cetera. They're doing, I'm sure, really well, but I don't know them as well. I can just tell you from my own experience with my group of friends because when we all started getting it, we used to watch the fights all together. We'd hang out and watch the fights and just talk about the fights. And now we're all, doing it, writing about it, reporting on it, YouTubing and stuff. So it's pretty cool, man. I remember just watching fights with my friends and just sitting there having a beer and being like, what do you think about this fight and stuff? And now we're like, getting paid, and we're you see our tweets on TV, and it's pretty cool, man. It's the journey, Elliot. It's like, although the journey's been hard, I wouldn't give up anything for that journey, because I appreciate it so much more now, because I've had to gone through so much myself. And I know you know exactly what I'm talking about with yourself too as well.
It's interesting, right? Because everyone, one of the things that I like to have people do that I work with on a personal level is I'm like, well, who are you? What does it mean to be you? And, very simple. I am blank. So obviously for me, I am a fighter, but I think everyone is this, right? Everyone had to grit down at some point. Anybody that's made anything of themselves, there was this point in that journey where they could have quit or they could keep going. And in that decision, you had to fight for it, right? You had to fight for it. So in a sense, everyone is a fighter. Now, look, does everyone have what it takes to get into a cage and fight? No, I'm not trying to say that.
Nope.
But everyone knows what it's like to make a decision in their life to not quit on something.
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't tell you this, but I'm not training now, but I did train at the beginning of my journey in the space. I did take one fight in a Muay Thai match. And I just wanted to see what you guys went through. And I got to tell you right now, it was brutal. It was hard.
You take another one.
I don't know, man.
I'm just joking. Don't take another one.
I'm bigger now too. I'm a lot bigger than I used to be.
The most fear that I ever had. No, I won't say that the most. But my second fight was there was more fear than my first fight, because your first fight, you don't really know what you're getting into.
Yep.
And then your second fight, you're like, oh my God, that was so fucking scary. So you remember the fear. So that was a motherfucker.
Yeah, I thought about it. This was in 2014 when I had my match, and it was good.
Yeah.
I had, again, some of the friends I mentioned, they were there. I just remember I was a heavyweight at that point. I mean, I was like 225. The other guy was about 250. I thought because I was training harder, my cardio was better, my technique was better. I'm like, I'm going to kick this guy's ass. No, first punch lands right in the temple, and I've never felt that way in my life. I mean, I think you've been knocked out or no? Have you been knocked out?
I've been TKO'd in a fight, but I've been knocked out in practice.
Yeah, and I just remember feeling like everything went like this kind. It was just a really weird feeling. My contact popped out, and the ref was like, "If you can't see, we're gonna stop the fight, right?" I just remember looking in the crowd, see all my friends there. They all paid $20 to watch me fight. I said, "I'm putting that contact back in. I'm gonna fight." And I went to 3 rounds with the guy, and I couldn't walk for like a week after that. My legs were done. My brain hurt. And I just remember thinking to myself, my God, what do these fighters go through? Because I wanted to know what you guys went through. I needed to know that, right? I needed to see that. And I think that it gave me a different perspective on the game than some other people that haven't been through that. Would I do it again? Probably not. I'm not going to lie, especially if I didn't get paid for it.
Oh, but I won't do it again.
Yeah, you wouldn't fight again. And you've been retired for what, 12 years now, I believe?
2011. So
11
the end of 11.
Yeah.
So 11 years almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. You'd have to pay me like 50 million, 20, like millions.
Yeah.
And no one's going to do that. Like I don't even think I would do it for $1 million.
Yeah. It's tough, man. And I mean, we'll talk about fighter pay, I'm sure. It's just, again, you have to have the passion for it, right? You got to, because otherwise it's like, it's pretty nuts.
Fighting is the worst thing you can do for money.
Yeah. I don't blame you for saying that.
It's the worst thing you can do for money, because it's brutal. If you don't love fighting, then it is literally the worst job, because it is so hard, and you can't understand what it's like to step out there until you do it. You're like, it's a fight. I've been in a fight. It's not. It's no, but it's just not that. So we've brought it up a couple times. What is your thoughts on fighter pay?
I just think it's a shame. I mean, I think you guys are getting shafted by the UFC. I mean,
I don't get to be you guys anymore, because I'm just an old man.
I apologize.
Yeah,
You're not in the UFC anymore, but I think. I mean, are you okay with talking about how much money you made in the UFC? Or
for sure. I'll talk about whatever you want.
What was your show? It was 8 and 8, maybe? Was that what your show?
Here, I have an amazing story. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Amazing. So here's the story. So I was on The Ultimate Fighter, and when you come off The Ultimate Fighter, you have a contract, right? It's better than most, but it's long, and within a year, it's out of date. So I was 8 and 8. So I won my first 3. So that got me to, I don't know, 12-12 or something. And then I got released by the UFC after that. And then I got back on a short notice fight, and I emailed Joe Silva. I was like, yo, I saw this dude fell out. I won my last 2 fights. I finished my last 3 fights outside. I finished the last dude. Let's go. He's like, fine, done. He's like, I can't pay you that much though. And I was like, how much are you going to pay me? He's like 20 and 20, which was almost double of what I was getting before.
But it's still terrible though. You know what I mean? Like for getting your ass kicked, like not saying you got your ass kicked, but like
I did.
Just to get in there and get beat up. I wanted to ask you something because I noticed in your record, you fought for that Nemesis organization, I think
that was a no pay.
I talked to John Moraga 10 years ago. I interviewed him in 2011. He told me he never got paid for that fight. That's crazy, man.
I had a $20,000 check bounce 2 weeks before Christmas.
I figured because I remember hearing that years ago. That's sick. And unfortunately, that's still taking place. There was a card a few years ago in South Korea. Will Brooks fought on it. He fought Gleison Tebow. I don't think he ever got paid for that fight as well. So that's a shame. But let's talk about the UFC. So the biggest problem right now is it's just, if you look at other sports, right, like MLB, NFL, etc., it's basically a 50-50 split. The owners get 50, the players get 50. That's really the way it should be. But in the UFC, it's like 80-20, Elliot. You know, and they hide most of their numbers too.
It's 80-20, but you got to understand, even there, I would say of that 20, the top 15 guys make 19% of the 20.
Absolutely. Like you have your Conor McGregor, he's pulling in a lot of money, Masvidal, Nate Diaz, etc. Well, he can't even get a fight right now. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of issues with it. The biggest problem is it's just people are dedicating their lives to this, and then they get to the UFC and they're making 10 and 10, and it's 2022. So if you lose, you get $10,000. And as you know, you're paying what taxes, your management, all your food, your nutrition, etc. What are you left with? Really, what do you?
If you lose a fight at 10 and 10, you lost money.
You did, right? Like you're paying to fight almost in that way, right? Like, yeah, you're getting some exposure, I guess. I think what a lot of people are doing now, a lot of fighters, like they're using their platform to like elevate themselves in other areas. Like, so when they do end up stop fighting, they'll have like a YouTube channel or a Twitch stream or something like that, which I think is smart, right? But like you said, I mean, like it takes a special person to get that 1% or whatever you want to say. It's just, you know, listen, I respect Dana White, right? Like at the end of the day, like I don't think I would have a job without this man. That's the truth, because the sport wouldn't be where it is. So I do respect Dana for that, but I just think it's wrong how little the fighters get paid. And, you know, it hurts, man, to see it. Like what can change? I guess they'd have to make a union, but will that ever happen? No, because why would Conor McGregor want to be part of a union, right? He would never want to do that. So you'd have to have every other fighter get into it. And I just don't think it'd be possible to ban them all together. So I don't know what to say, man. I mean, it's a massive problem with the sport, you know. It's just, and it's sad because guys would want to leave the UFC to go to other promotions or even boxing or something where they get paid a little bit more money. But wouldn't you want to have the best fighters in your promotion? And here's the other thing I've always said: if you pay these guys more, right? Wouldn't they be able to train better? They wouldn't have to have like a lot of fighters have a second job, as you know. Like, were you working a second job during your career?
At the beginning, but not at the end.
Okay.
But I was married, right? I was married, and my wife was a nurse, and she became then a nurse practitioner. So
that helps.
That helps, right? That helps. Like, you know, yeah, that helps a lot.
Absolutely. It's just, you know, it's tough. Like I think, you know, a lot of fighters they're not making much money right now. You know, they spend their whole lives dedicated to this, and then 10 and 10, you lose, you get knocked out, you get a second chance, you lose
let's
again,
be clear.
You get cut.
40 and 40 is not enough.
It's not really, you know what I mean?
40 and 40 is not enough.
You might make what? You might fight once or twice a year.
Let's say you fight, well, they have to give you 3, you know?
Yes.
But you got to understand, so that's 120 in a year. That's what people look at. But it definitely is a little different, right? Because you're going to lose 30% to taxes off the top, you know? So then you're going to have to pay your management 10 to 15% of that. Then you have to pay your coaches 15% of that. So you're looking at 50% of that. You're looking at 60 grand at best. And that's not including, look, the UFC doesn't even pay for the extra plane tickets. They pay for 1 plane ticket and 1 hotel room. So you have to get 2 more hotel rooms per fight and feed them. You know, so and that is not included in coaching. It's a coach's person. So this life of a fighter, I will agree with you here, is difficult. You know, it's very difficult.
I mean, you've been through the journey yourself. Like, you know exactly how hard it is.
Yeah, you don't make any money. So unless you become the Cowboys and the Connors and the Andersons and the Israel Adesanya's, and
right,
and these guys. And then, other guys make decent money, like the Curtis Bladeses of the world. He makes okay money. Right.
Yeah.
But
and he deserves it. He's an amazing fighter. Like, he's an elite talent. It blows my mind still that a bench player in Major League Baseball gets paid, I believe the minimum wage is $600,000 a year. Like, in hockey, it's $750,000. I think in the NFL, it's like $1 million for a bench player. Or the NBA is like over $1 million. Like, for the guy at the bottom of the bench, he might play a minute a night, might not even play.
Right.
And I'm not saying those guys don't deserve that, because they've worked their asses off too. We all know that.
I agree.
To get to where they got,
you're an amazing athlete. If you're the bench player in the NBA, you're an amazing athlete. You are the top 0.01% of athletes in the whole fucking world, and you're still not good enough to play in the game. But back to you a little bit.
Sure.
What have you done to step your level up? Right? Like, because you have to, just like a fighter, you have to be up leveling, right? You can't come with the same boring like, one of my biggest gripes when I was fighting was when you're being interviewed, they ask you the same fucking question. Like, Adam asks me, and Ariel asks me, and so boom, boom, boom. How are you feeling? How was camp? Man, just go listen to the guy who I just talked to. So how are you up leveling your game?
And that's the worst question to ask a fighter. Like, how was your training camp? Like, I can't imagine you guys getting like wanting to even answer that question. Right?
It was terrible. I think I'm going to lose. I'm in the worst shape of my life. The guy I'm fighting is so good. Is like, shut the fuck up.
No, it's true though. But like, to answer your question, like, I think when I started, it was just mostly writing, right? But I don't think you can just, if you want to be a reporter, you can't just write anymore. Like, you have to be doing podcasts, which I do a couple times a week. You have to be doing videos, which I do a couple times a week. A few years ago, someone asked me, hey, do you want to start doing a video podcast? I was like, I don't think I'm that good on camera. I'm a little bit nervous to do this. I just started doing it. And 3 years later, I think I'm pretty good at it now. Like, I'm much more comfortable than I used to be.
So what did you do? What did you, other than start, like, did you do anything to gain skill?
Talk to people that were already doing it. I think mentors is such an important part of the journey, having people that have already been there and done that, asking them what their advice is. But I really think it comes down to, like, practice, repetition, just putting the reps in, man. I think that's what it comes down to for me anyways. I think that's helped me, just the experience, really. And I think, again, it's the same as a fighter. Like that experience matters, like, it helps a lot.
I did, like we said, they're mentors, right? Like, somebody who's walked the path that you are trying to walk. Right.
Absolutely.
Like, and for me, for example, I don't look for fighter mentors anymore, because I'm not trying to fight. I have to look for business mentors and and personal development mentors and books to read and things like that. So finding a mentor in the space that you are trying to enter, is a really big one. Who were some of your mentors?
Yeah, just like I said, some of the people that I was working with at the time, and then the guy Nick Kalikas, he's a mentor of mine. He's working for UFC now, doing their on the Fight Pass. He has like a betting show. He's doing really well. So when I met Nick, he wasn't living in the States. He was a guy that was setting the odds from, again, an offshore sports book, I think in Costa Rica. Now he's in Vegas. He's doing really well, and that's a guy I've always looked up to. Right? He was a friend of mine. I've worked actually for him for 10 years now. It's the longest job I've ever had in my life.
Okay.
I've never had a job that long. I've been writing sports.
I've never had a job, man, so I don't know what to tell you. I've never had it. Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, you've always been your own boss, like, I assume, right? Like, for yourself.
I mean, I've had some odd jobs. I worked at a bar and I worked at a restaurant, but like, as far as like a job, oh.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I had jobs before I got into the writing, and when I was in school, I worked at Home Depot for 3 years. And man, that job sucked.
Yeah, that's not a job, right? That's not. It's a job. It's not a career. I've never had a career, is what I should say.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm just saying, like, that job sucked. And it really showed me, like, there's people like in their 40s, 50s, 60 years old. They were working there full time, making $10 an hour. Like, I'm like, how are you surviving on this?
I don't want to hate anybody that works at Home Depot, because if it's your thing, if you love to help people, like, it doesn't matter, right? It's not your thing, and it's not my fucking thing. Like, I'm not going to. I can't, like, that would I would shoot. Look, I think if you had to support your family, you would do whatever, right? Same for me. But man, that I could see drinking all day, all night long after working that for me. And some people owning a business, they're like, shoot me. I don't want to do that, which is totally fine. So no knocking on whatever job you're doing, but make sure it's either having a means to an end, right? Like, okay, I have to work this job, like you said, you had to go work this other job so that you could get better at writing and get a gig, or make sure
Yep.
it's what you really love.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think what it just taught me, like when I was like, 18, 19 years old, I'm watching people, like there was a guy, he was 65 years old working there. He was working the 4 a.m. shift. He was working 4 a.m. to 1 p.m. And I'm like, I can't do this. There's no way I can do this. It just motivated me to get out of there in a way. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I'm like, let's grind. Let's really focus on school. And I was a good student. I think that helped me as well. I was a good student. But again, that being a student doesn't pay anything. You got to get a job. You got to get a career. Luckily, I have a career now. It's a career I really enjoy. And it's something I would never want to leave. I feel very blessed, man. Like, I get to write about a sport and talk about a sport that I love. There's actually a lot of people in our space that complain and stuff. And I'm just like, you guys are fools. Like, you have a solid gig. Like, you get to do something you enjoy. Like, whatever. For me, it's yeah, always striving for something more. But I'm very like grateful for what I have. Especially when you compare it to like what you've had in the past.
How did you develop that mindset?
Just a lot of just years of ups and downs, man. I've been through a lot in my life. Myself, just personal journey. Just a lot of stuff like just gone on in my life, personal issues. Just I mean, really, it's just like I said, experience. Like, again, doing this for so long. Sometimes I forget how long I've been doing this for. I mean, like, yeah, it's only 12 years, but 12 years is still a long time. It's more than a third of my life. You know what I mean? So it's, like I said, longer than I've been doing anything else. So yeah, I think it's just that mindset's not everyone can have that mindset, but for me, it's the mindset I have, and it's a mindset I can't let go of.
What in that mindset forces you to keep improving?
Got a daughter, man. I think that's for me one of the biggest motivations for sure. I mean, it's just I really wanted, for me, it's just about making a
I'm
living.
going to
Like,
stop you right there
sure,
because a lot of people have kids,
sure,
right? A lot of people have kids
sure.
and they're fine with going to work, coming home, sitting on the
Yep,
couch, popping open a couple beers, watching the ball game, making sure that their wife, especially when we're talking about men here, cooks and
yep.
cleans, they give the kids a kiss, good night, yada, yada. So there's a lot of men in our space that are totally fine with just chilling right where they are, that make enough money, but it doesn't sound like you're in that space, in that headspace, in that mindset. So I guess that's why I'm going to push back on you a little bit. What's the mindset that pushes you to be better at what you do?
No, it's true. Like, here's the thing. Like, I have a full-time job, 9 to 5, right? But after I'm done that job, I'm doing the MMA stuff. So it's like, it's a great question. You're right, because even my own family, I know how some men are. I don't want to get into
Mm-hmm.
it, but like, there's some men in my family that they don't do anything for their kids, and I don't want to be that guy. I just really want to be a really good father, and I want my daughter to have a better life than I had. Like, I had a decent life growing up. Like, I'm not complaining by any means, but I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to, like, I don't want to be like famous. Like, that's not my goal or anything like that. It's just to be really good at what I do. And it's to make a good living. So I guess for me, it's like, yeah, you mentioned money earlier. I mean, let's be honest, like, that's important,
You
right?
need it.
Yeah, man, I'm still trying to make more money. I'm trying to get a raise, obviously. I'm still I try to work as much as I can. So like, I want to have a nice safety net to fall on. I want my daughter not to have to struggle. So I know you're saying everyone has that motivation, man. I see people every day, man. They have kids. They don't even give a shit about their kids. I'm
It's
not
the
like that.
weirdest thing to me.
I don't get
The
it. Like,
weirdest
there's
thing to
nothing
me.
nothing better, right? Like, you have 2 kids, you said, right? How old are your
Yeah.
kids?
I had 12 and he'll be 9 here in a month.
Right, right. So I mean, like, they're getting bigger and stuff, and I'm sure when they were younger, you were just like really motivated. And at that point, you were probably in the UFC at that point when they were babies, right?
Well,
Like, or the one, right?
when my one was a baby, I was, but then the other one, no, I was done.
That's crazy. Yeah. So I mean, I know what you're saying, man. Like, I see a lot of people that just they don't have that same mentality.
Well,
Everyone's different though.
I think the number one problem in our world is the absent male in young children's lives.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I
I
w-
mean, I don't like, for me, it's I want to see my daughter every day if I can. My sister right now, she's going through a separation, and her husband, ex-husband, I guess, seemed to be, he doesn't care about his daughter that much. You know what I mean? I'm not here to like
Mhm.
shame the guy publicly or anything like that, but like, it's hard for my sister. Like, she's a young woman and she's doing everything on her own. That's hard.
It's hard.
And I don't want to do that to my fiance. You know what I mean?
And look at just the problems that we have in the world with the absent male, right? I probably would say that every school shooter had an absent male father in their life in
Yep,
some way, right?
yep.
almost every single one. So it drug issues and behavior issues and all of these things. So for me, that's the like I will not raise a child like that. That will like if my child turns like we have very little control, at the end of the day of what our kids are going to go out and do, but it won't be because daddy wasn't there.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, Elliot. Like, I just want to be a decent dad. You know what I mean? Again, my kid's a baby still, right? But I'm trying to be there every day for her. I want to show her that her dad cares about her. Her dad works hard. That means a lot to me. Just working hard. Like, I mean, honestly, it's as simple as that sounds. Like, that's something that really just motivates me. Still, I want to work hard. I want to go to sleep every night knowing that I put my 110% in that day. You know what I mean?
100%.
And that includes being a writer, but that also includes being a father, which honestly is the number one job. It really is. It's the most important job. But again, you can't be a good dad if you don't have a job, unfortunately, as you know too. Because being a dad's expensive. These diapers are expensive, man. Like I didn't realize how much diapers.
Wait till dude, fuck the diapers, man. My kids are into sports, and oh my god, we probably spend. I don't even want to say the number we spend a year on sports teams and coaching and yada. It's stupid. It's But what else are you gonna do? Like your kid, like. Look, if they sucked, I probably wouldn't do it. But they don't suck. So it's,
What sports are they playing? Like football or?
Man, they love basketball.
Basketball's sick, man.
They love basketball. So yeah. So my 12-year-old is up to here. He's 5'10".
Oh wow.
He's so I have, in my 8, almost 9-year-old, he's probably 5'3", So I have big kids.
That's awesome.
So a couple questions that I always end the podcast with. I believe everyone has a superpower, and that superpower, you go and you give it to the world, and then the world gives something back to you for it. The ROI is not always money necessarily. What do you think your superpower is?
Oh man, that's a crazy question. I just think my kindness, man. I just try to be a good guy. Like I really think that's what for me, like that's what I want to be. Just a decent person. Someone wants to ask me for help. Like I always want to put my hand out and help them out. I always want to be that guy, man. I'm really not sure. I mean, that for me, I think is what I would say is my superpower. Just being there to listen to people, to help them out. I've always needed people there for me, and now I want to, do it back to them, kind of pay it forward or whatever.
Yeah. Last question is, this podcast, I'm not Rogan, right? I'm not Rogan. I'm not Ariel. I'm not DC. It's not going to really, it's not going to do much for you in the space, right? Most of my listeners probably aren't like super fans of MMA. Why take the hour out of your day? Like you said, you're trying to make it for your daughter, and you work a 9 to 5, and then you do this. So why take this hour out of your day to do something that probably won't move the needle for you?
It's not just 1 hour, it's 2 hours, because last time it didn't work out with our interview. So I actually sat there last time, and I think there was a scheduling conflict or whatever. So
God damn it. Yes.
It's okay.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. No worries. But I want to tell you, it doesn't matter, because I wanted to do with you, because number one, I have respect for you because you stepped in that cage and I watched you compete. So that's number one. And number two, because when I got the email about it, it just sounded like something I'd want to do, man, just to talk about the sport, but not just the sport, the motivation behind the sport, the psychology behind the sport. And again, looking at your podcast, it looked really interesting to me. So that's why I did it. I wanted to just do it, man. And for me, it's a little bit of time out of my day, but it's okay, Elliot. I wanted to do it. That's what it came down to, because I respect you and I wanted to talk to you, man.
I appreciate it. I think I have my calendar fixed now. Finally, I traveled 5 weeks in a row, and then I had these dates that would pop up so our podcast, it popped up right when it started on my calendar.
It's okay. No worries, man. It's all good.
Yeah. But I had 2 of them like this, and I was like, God damn it. I was like, I looked like I didn't have anything to do 15 minutes ago. And then I wasn't home and so anyway, I apologize.
It's all good, man. Honestly, like for me, it's water under the bridge. It's not a big deal. It doesn't matter how many views this gets from me. It's not how many, I don't care how many listeners it gets. If just one person listens and they take something from it, that means the world to me, man. Just as long as one person hears and listens. And if not, the fact that I got the chance to talk to you, that honestly makes me feel really good, man. Like I was telling some of my friends about it, and I was like, I'm doing an interview with Elliot Marshall. Remember him, the fighter from the UFC? And all my friends are, they're all UFC fans. Obviously, they're like, man, that's super cool. So I just wanted to talk to you, man. Like, again, I have a lot of respect for you. I respect all the fighters. That's the number one thing I think that really kind of separates me from a lot of the other journalists. I just have so much respect for what you guys do because I know how hard it is. And I think a lot of people are just like, they just look at you guys as commodities. I don't. I look at you guys as people, and that's what it comes down to for me.
Everyone's a human, we're all humans first. And that's a hard thing to sometimes walk into the world with, but we are all humans first. So thanks so much. Tell everyone where they can reach out to you, like where they can find your stuff, your booking site, your where everything. Go ahead.
Thanks, Ben. So you guys can follow me on Twitter at MMAOB. I'm pretty active on Twitter. That's kind of my main social media medium. I work for a couple websites, bookies.com. That's my main job. Do some sports betting stuff there. Then MMAOddsbreaker.com. Also do sports betting for them. And then I have a podcast Monday, Tuesday with my buddy Big Marcel. That's an awesome podcast. We break down the UFC fights. We talk about all the fights and everything like that. So it's a lot of fun. And then MyMMAnews.com. So I'm working for them as well, doing some news and stuff. Just again, I don't necessarily have to do these side jobs, but I love doing it. I just want to keep doing it. Keep my feet wet. Keep making some money. Keep enjoying the sport. Keep loving life, man. So it's all good. I really appreciate you bringing me on here, man. It's a lot of fun.
Adam, thanks, man. I appreciate you coming on. Go check out all of Adam's stuff everywhere that he has just stated. And as always, everyone, Adam has his unique and special power in the world, and I have my unique and special power in the world. Don't go out in the world and try to be Adam. Don't go out in the world and try to be me. Everybody go out there and please find your own power.